Narratively Speaking, introducing you to narrative therapy ideas for everyday use in everyday situations, with Linda and Therese. As narrative practitioners, we are interested in making narrative ideas available for use in everyday lives. We believe that these ideas can be used to make a difference in your own life and also in the lives of others. What are some narrative therapy ideas and where can you use them? Narrative idea number 1. People live their lives according to the stories they tell about themselves. As narrative practitioners, we work with people's stories. We believe that it is the stories people tell about themselves that have the greatest influence over how they live their lives. We notice through our work that some stories can be really helpful and encourage us to grab life with both hands. Other stories might leave us feeling less than, not good enough, and believing that we are not measuring up to some gold standard or another. There are stories that might leave us guilt-ridden or thinking that we have failed in some way. There are other stories that might help us experience curiosity, a what if I could, an imagine if. Some stories might stop us in our tracks and prevent us from taking another step forward, leave us with terrible self-doubt and poor identity conclusions. Other stories can reassure, spark excitement, propel us forward. One thing we know for sure is that stories affect how we live our lives. Narrative therapy is about helping people to transform their stories and the quality of their lives. So, how do we help people to transform their stories? As narrative practitioners, we encourage people to notice what kinds of stories they are telling themselves, to think about what stories they prefer for their lives, and to grow and strengthen these preferred stories so they can become the stories people can choose to live by. But you might ask, isn't this kind of thing for the experts? I'm not a therapist or a counselor. Am I even allowed to use it? Yes, not only can you use these ideas in your everyday worlds, we believe that you are often best placed to make a significant difference to the stories in the lives of others. This is because you are already in relationship with others, as their teachers, mentors, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and friends. We hope that by learning more about our narrative approach to conversations, you too will develop the confidence, skill, and know-how to have a significant and transformative effect on the life of another. So, how do you learn to do it? Narrative idea number 2. Consider life as being multi-storied. Thinking about stories and story making. Imagine the crosses on this screen in front of you are events that are happening in your life all the time. A narrative is a story where events are linked together to make meaning. As story makers, we humans join or link these events together in sequence through time, thus telling these stories with a past, a present, and a future. We literally join the dots or link these events and make meaningful stories about how our world fits together. There are many narratives to be told. Life is not made up of one single true narrative. There are many narratives to be discovered. Our aim is to listen for themes and storylines that speak of ways people would prefer to look at themselves and their lives. These bits of evidence are discovered by noticing events that highlight the existence of special qualities the person holds, their hopes, their values and dreams, knowledges, their skills and abilities, and then weaving these into new stories or improved stories that are more supportive of their lives and how they engage with their worlds. These stories we would refer to as preferred stories or narratives.
Some possibilities come about because we change an old storyline by connecting new dots with it, rewriting the existing story. Some possibilities include seeing the significance of certain events that had not been considered before and linking these into new preferred storylines. As the multiple storylines of our lives emerge, we also start imagining where that could take us and what that could mean for our lives.
What do you do with problem stories? Narrative idea number 3. The person is not the problem. Problem stories. We choose to see people as separate from the problems they experience in their lives. We say the person is the person and the problem is not the person. We try not to become too overcome by the problem.
By saying the person is the person and the problem is the problem, we are saying that we see a problem as separate from a person and not as part of the personhood or identity. We prefer to think that a person has a relationship with a problem. This means that the relationship can be revised, restoried, and changed.
We don't want to encourage problem stories to overwhelm people and their lives any more than they already have done. We are mindful of how problem-saturated stories can dominate how people think about their lives, about themselves and their capabilities, and the very real effects of these. So what other stories are you looking for? Narrative idea number 4. Getting to know the person as separate from the problem. We are interested in getting to know the person as someone who also has a life that is separate from the problem. Why is getting to know the person as separate from the problem so important? Rather than further developing problem-saturated stories, we develop more hope-filled stories with people. Stories filled with possibility, courage, determination, know-how, and good intent. We are most interested in people's local knowledges, what people know about their own lives, what they value and care about, their wisdoms, their hopes and dreams for their lives.
As narrative practitioners, we are always amazed by the knowledges people possess, their experiences of, insights into, and wisdoms about life. We are curious about these. These are the dots we join into hope-filled stories.
In our training, we will help you to notice how we think, how we use language, and how we join with others in developing preferred stories for our lives.
This is the end of this presentation, but not the end of our narrative conversations. Thanks for your interest.